Good morning to you, sir. And from the taxi organisation SANTACO is the Deputy General Secretary Bafana, Magagula. Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you for joining us.
Morning, Evan.
Morning, and compliments of 2014.
Oh, that's why I was going to start compliments of the season, but let's start with you, Gilberto. It hasn't been a vintage sort of festive season, as it seems as if we still have the same problems on the roads in South Africa.
Yeah, no, Eben, and good morning to you and the viewers. The problem is not even a festive season. Sadly, it's throughout the year. And road safety has to become an everyday event. It's got to be 365 days of the year, and we can't only focus on the festive season. And certainly the RTMC in the department, what we've got to do is take these actions and activities throughout the whole year, so that we need to maybe sit with yourself once a month and continue review where we are, review the strategy, so that we cannot always come at the end of the year and say, well, we've done this, because certainly it is difficult at the moment.
You've been on campaign really throughout the festive season with the sort of structures you've put in place to help make it better amongst the taxi drivers during this period. Just tell us the sort of programs you've been involved in and how things have been going on the roads.
Well, we've been on the road joined by, as normally we do, traffic officers and SAPS and PDs, the local traffic police of various areas, in trying to do our best to cap fatalities on the road. And surely the results are that, especially on the minibuses, which is the taxis, the statistics there shows that there's really a reduction since 2010, and I'm sure even during this period we've seen that there's quite a lot less accident as compared to other years.
It always comes down seemingly to the attitude of the driver. Yeah. The campaigns that you've been launching within your organisation, would you say that the attitudes of taxi drivers in South Africa is improving?
So far, yes, it is improving, though it is, I must admit, it is very slowly improving, but it is really improving. You know, an attitude is something very difficult to just change overnight from a person. But I think with people like yourself, when we do these publicities and talk about road safety, it will really conscientize the consciousness of each and every driver on the road, because our appeal is not only to the taxi drivers but to also other road users as well.
I wanted to talk to Gilberto about it, because I've gone on holiday to Cape Town. I drove down with a family and back, of course. It was shocking for me to see that there was only one real problem on the road, and that was the attitude of the driver. That people were driving so recklessly that it was very, very dangerous, and you almost felt like your life was in danger all the time during this trip. How do you change the attitudes of drivers who have no respect for the rules of the road? And these were not taxi drivers or truck drivers, but mostly luxury vehicles.
Yeah, Evan, this is something that certainly has come to the forefront. We look at our statistics, we look at the crashes, how they caused. 80% of them, before the crash happens, there's been a transgression of the rule. Now, clearly what we're doing as the RTMC, with all the NGOs and associations, and certainly our taxi colleagues, is to say it is an attitude. And an attitude, we need to understand that not everybody's a bad driver. Yeah. And we've certainly got to say, let's focus on the 80% good drivers. They're the ones who need to certainly ensure they don't lose their mind or get impatient when they see the silly things that you saw. But from our point of view, we'll continue with our education, and education from a young age all the way through to the adult driver. What we're doing as well now is, when we have roadblocks, it's not about a roadblock about drinking and driving. We check the vehicle, drinking and driving, and we do road safety. We do road safety at schools. But certainly what we've done as well as the RTMC, we're reviewing the strategies that we have. The final figures will be out the next week or so. The minister will obviously make a statement, and then we'll take that, internalize it with our taxi associations, with all the NGOs, and say, well, where do we start? Just like we identified 30 key areas, let's see what next we've got to do to address it. But attitude is number one target that we've got to get to.
Mr. Magagula, I wanted to come back to you with the attitudes on the roads that I experience. You know, people overtaking on double white lines, blind overtaking maneuvers past trucks over little uphills, just the kind of things that people say are not happening. It's really happening out there, and it's very aggressive. Is it time for us to make examples of those people that put their lives, as Gilberto said, of the 80% good road users? Is it time to really go after the 20%?
Of course, yes. I'm sure law enforcement need to be really enforced there. Somewhere and somehow the law on traffic rules, which is the most, I think the use of firearm is even far less than people that are killed on the road by vehicles. I think the attitude also from the law department side needs to change and focus on the sentencing of these drivers. Even maybe on overtaking on a barrier line, it needs to be something like maybe a month there is no fine, a month in jail or something. The attitude will really change, because one accident, the person is dead immediately. Yeah. It's same as shooting a person. So if the law can change there and be more stronger and stop the leniency that is there presently, surely the attitude will change.
As the RTMC, what is your response to that?
We agree, and certainly we need to compliment our provinces who tirelessly, the traffic officials are trying. But let's take your example. You go from here to Cape Town, 1,400 kilometers. If we're expecting to have traffic officials every 50 kilometers, we start getting to the point where we focus. So we agree, we need to monitor, pick up the areas where there are certainly problems. I mean, you raised the issue between Beaufort West and Laingsburg. Yeah. If there are areas that are clearly problematic, we've got to focus on them. But clearly at the same time, what we need to understand is, as the individual, when he's behind that wheel, a simple thing like buckling up. I mean, there's no matter what the law says, you just do it yourself. You know, you put a child next to you, you buckle up. Don't drinking and drive. That is another one of the ones that, it's not about traffic enforcement, it's about the individual's choice.
Is it time for us to, yes, we can't put traffic officials every 50 kilometers. Is it maybe time for us to put cameras on our main roads and really review these cameras for those kinds of transgressions, and sort of put punishments after the fact in play?
Definitely, if those cameras are not just there as cameras, and if whatever is being picked up as a road offense from those cameras, if drastic actions are taken, and those actions need to be published. Right now, just before December, the Music Star and Malema was published. Yeah. Even individuals that are not maybe celebrities should also be published. Their names should be published, that Bafana Magagula was caught speeding and is going to be in jail for 14 days before he can even appear, what have you. People, it's going to really start changing, because people believe that if I'm not a superstar, then I can do as it pleases me, and nothing will happen. People will not know.
Because that's really at the heart of the problem, is that drivers tend to do what they want or what they feel like until they get caught. Isn't that so? Yeah,
and I think, and I certainly, there was a name and shame campaign that's being reviewed again, and that's from a justice issue, because individuals have rights. Yeah. It's the same as saying, well, drunken driving. It's about how effective is the screening, how many hours before they get tested. So certainly we need to start becoming more aggressive, and then where there's a potential loophole, we've got to close that loophole. Whether it's legislation, whether it's regulations, we need to address it more aggressively.
The two provinces that were really problematic, once again, KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng, what are the underlying reasons for the high numbers we've seen in these provinces specifically? And in the case of taxis, it seems that KwaZulu-Natal continues to be a hotspot.
Well, why we think maybe KwaZulu-Natal seems to be the hottest hotspot center. there's too many people interested to go there,
Yeah.
and I don't know why the attitude, why people don't don't realize that now we need to change. But we are working on it with our Hlokomela program, of course, with RMTC in place. We believe that given the next a few years, we will definitely deal with this situation.
We're not going to wait until Easter again to run another campaign. I would think you mentioned earlier that this should be a 12-month campaign, and all stakeholders should really get involved and really try and help change attitudes on the roads. Because what I saw, it's not a question of too many vehicles, or it's a question of driving attitude on the road. Along with that, I now find that a lot of people, they use energy drinks and other stuff on the roads that might help them stay awake, but they do, it does make them a little bit more edgy and maybe in some instances more aggressive. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I think, when you deprive someone from sleep, it's going to have a negative impact. So you'll stay awake and try, but it doesn't really mean that you may not sleep, but your aggressiveness or your attitude on the road will just become something else. So, what will help one thing, it'll actually upset the other. In terms of the Christmas period, you're right. We've got a 365-day-a-year campaign. It's driven very closely with the Department of Transport, the RTMC, and the Minister certainly that's a key project that we're running with the department. And we will continue. And hence I'm saying that it's not about having figures once a month. We need to once a year. We've got to have them once a month. We've got to start looking at the judicial issues, how long it takes to convict people. And I think it's a collective that we need to do together with our provinces, with the RTMC is certainly the bridge, together with all the organizations, because there's many good road safety organizations. We would work with them, get ideas and implement them together.
SANTACO, you have been at the forefront the last couple of months to try and change attitudes amongst your drivers and to try and improve the situation. Just tell us about how do you see yourself take these processes forward into 2014 to help and improve all around, not just on distance travel, but also inner cities and so forth, where people tend to have a more aggressive attitude towards taxis and taxi drivers?
Well, we have come to realize that we need to be very more aggressive on where the taxi lives, that is the taxi rank.
Yeah.
Have more campaigns there, get the drivers during their off-peak, like now it's 9 o'clock, they've got it's an off-peak for them. Get them together, try and get to move from one rank to another. We also want to go aggressively to each and every association which is possible to make sure that each and every association appoint a person that we're going to take him through our academy and make sure that he understands exactly what our program is and what the aim is, so that each and every association at each and every rank where they operate, they've got someone every day between 9 and 10, they issuing pamphlets and they go on PA system and address the issue.
If I'm a taxi user, what kind of recourse do I have if my taxi driver or the taxi drivers on the route that I'm on, if they consistently break the law, can I get into contact with you, or what sort of recourse do I have as the user and the person whose life is being put at risk ultimately?
Well, two things that we actually encourage the taxi users to do is phone the nearest taxi association if you do have the number. If you don't have, phone our central number. If not, phone 10-111. And because, it also results to crime that a taxi driver escape a red robot, because that's an attempted murder in a way. So if also taxi users who are our passengers can also embark on a campaign where they make an example with 1 or 2 taxi drivers, that will also sort of bring some attention to most other taxi drivers, that these people whose lives are put at risk by taxi drivers are not that onlookers and say, oh, he nearly killed us, but they do something about it. We really invite them to do that.
That's very good and fantastic to know that. I wanted to, Gilberto, finish off with you by saying 100 people, 100 less in the month of December. It is an improvement of almost 10%. Do you believe that your campaigns are steering you in the right direction, or do you have to step it up and really start targeting other areas in order to have more success?
Well, in honesty, one death is one death too many. So 100 is better than 0. But certainly the campaigns have to be stepped up. They've got to be changed. We've got to identify clearly where we've got to go, and together with our provinces and our municipalities in Salga, we need to say this is the next opportunity. Certainly we will now review the December campaign. We'll look at all what we did, and then as we step it up, try and bring in new ideas, new innovations, private partnerships that will certainly help us get to the point where there is a zero tolerance on crashes and road fatalities.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today. Very insightful. And before the month of January is out, we'll have another conversation, and hopefully we'll have better news. Although it seems that things are improving. Although what I saw on the roads over the last couple of weeks was really scary. And if that is the case, I think we still have a lot of work to do. Thank you very much for joining us. That's Gilberto Martins of the RTMC and SANTACO's Deputy Secretary General Bafana Magagula. Thank you once again.
It's our pleasure.